Hello, it's Miss Emma. I'll put a link to this free SSP Decodable Readers Guide on the Facebook page, so Facebook Speech Sound Pics. An SSP teacher shared this lovely clip of this little preppy who'd brought this book in to read. I have no idea what the book is, but I know it's a blue code level reader. So it's not a decodable reader as such, or it might be, but I can have a look at the words on the page and I know the graphemes, I know the sound pics that are in those words, so I know the code level she's working at. It has nothing to do with how many words are on the page, it's the phoneme to grapheme correspondence.
Alice puts the water in the bath. She finds some soap and a brush. She washes the pig all over. The bubbles make him sneeze.
The phonics element of the Big Six in SSP is so sequential, it's scaffolded, so the children know exactly where they are on their learning journey. They understand what the code levels mean.
SSP is really fun. We have posters. When we move up levels, it's exciting but really hard. The highest level is blue level. I'm on that level. And when you're on the highest level, it'll be so hard. It's really fun, but it's hard.
How people go through all green level, purple level, yellow level and blue level, and then when they're really good at reading past all of those code levels like me, they get to read whatever they like chapter books.
When I've done lots of stuff, I get to move up levels, and I get my SSP because we move up levels, and I've already moved up a level, and I'm on blue now, and because I do heaps of work, and I do lots of SSP on my workboard, and write heaps of things and all them. And I like working with Erin, practicing blue and elite because I'm almost on blue because I'm at yellow, and I like practicing with Erin and Ellie.
She didn't even help us.
You didn't need the help because you're so clever.
We just do by ourselves. Back was too clever, but he's in the middle row and I'm in the back row.
Yeah. How did you know that was the A sound pick in 18?
Now this teacher had them in rows, green, purple, yellow, blue, but that was just her organisational choice.
Duck hands for 18.
No,
you can hear it. A, E, 18.
Even I'm nearly on the blue level.
You're already on the blue level. You're reading Oh, you're not?
I'm nearly. I'm not.
You're learning. That's fabulous.
I'm on the yellow level.
Wow.
My favourite book at school is Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
At my home, I read my easy books there for preppies, but they're normal books for big kids, but I can read.
I got on blue, so I have to be much learning and writing and reading. So that means I read so much in my home and do some SSP in my home. Always when I go back to school, straight away.
We love getting parents involved, but you can see the children know where they are on their learning journey. They know the code level they're at, they know what that means, they understand the phonics, and they know how it links with their reading books. Now, books are only decodable if they are following the phonics teaching sequence that you are using. So this is the SSP teaching sequence. So we have a linguistic phonics approach, and we're scaffolding the learning. So we're doing a combination of systematic explicit teaching with inquiry learning. Although this is your high frequency graphemes, so high frequency speech sound pics, they're pictures of speech sounds. Think about, if I was to take a picture of it in the air, put it down on paper, what might it look like? It might look like that. And look, we see it in Stan. Obviously, this is a green code level decodable reader, which means this is our first green code level. It means that the only graphemes in the book are these ones. And if you open up an SSP decodable reader, I don't actually print these, I don't publish these. These are all online readers, they're digital. So it actually says to the children, the speech sound pics in this book are s, at, p, it, n, and here are the duck level words in this book. So is, the, here, said, mum, oh, and they're all still decodable. It's just that at the beginning stages of phonics, we're not learning all of these graphemes. Is, the, here, said, mum, oh. You know, we haven't even looked at an E for a yet, let alone an A and an I. So they are high frequency words that we use to make it more exciting, because it's obviously, even though we can do the rap, sat, pat, tam, pan, tim, pin, ants, nam, pan, nip, sip, tip, pit, ants, nap, pat, the children can do it a lot quicker than I can. We do this to develop decoding fluency, gaining meaningful context. You know, all of this, what sound does that letter make, and, you know, letters in isolation or whatever, we're trying not to do. Phonics is taught very differently by different people. I have a particular style, and most of it relates to meaningful context. We want, and it's a means to an end. Speech Sound Pics approach is because we want the Prep in Year 1 team, the wonderful Prep in Year 1 team, sending those children up to grade 2 as readers, no longer learning to read, now reading to learn. Okay, so that's our scaffolded systematic phonics teaching. And this is only a fraction of the whole code they're going to need to be able to read, you know, whatever they want. Chapter books, series books, which is what we want them doing as quickly as possible. So when I look at a book, like for example, you know, one of these lovely books. When I look at a book, I don't look at how many words there are. That doesn't mean anything. What matters is, what's the code in these words? So the code in this is so, the, a, they, sent, me, are. So this is not easily decodable text for a child for quite some time. This is the blue code level, because to be able to actually code, to know the code in these words, they're going to have done an awful lot of phonics instruction. So there might only be a few words. And yes, of course, you can get them to memorize them, whatever, but that's not actually helping them to quickly be able to read with no pictures. You want them to be able to look at any text and read it, to be able to decode it with fluency and comprehension. That's what reading is. As soon as I start saying to teachers, well, what's reading? As soon as we start thinking, well, it's decoding with fluency and comprehension. So even though I might recognize that straight away, the children still know that's made up of so. So think about those speech sounds, those phonemes, so, and that's how they're represented. So teachers, when they look at this, they think, well, what's the code? That's actually purple code level, purple code level, purple code level. They see the parts. So like, think about that sentence, I sent him back. That's a duck level word, I. But all of those graphemes, sent, they've looked at sent, and we've got him, it, him, him, back, back, back. So look at every sentence and think, what code level is it? Is it not how many words there are? Okay, so get this guide. It's really, really straightforward. The guide is great because if you're following this order, which is more or less, I chose this because it's in line with letters and sounds in the UK. You know, as an Ofsted inspector in the UK, I used to work for the government. I used to be heavily involved in education. Well, I've always been heavily involved in education. But when I got to Australia, I thought, well, if I'm going to share what I do, the best way to do it is put it in a sequence that's actually going to mean that teachers can use a lot of the letters and sounds resources. So here's the first group. So when you open it up, it'll say, well, in the green, so that's showing you all the books that you could choose if the child's at blue level, yellow level, and it just tells you what they are, whether they're dandelions, whether they're Fitzroys. Now don't go mad on your decodables, because they're a means to an end, and a lot of kids can get through them really, really quickly. So contact me, tell me what your audience is, what your kids are like, how many kids you've got and what have you, and I'll tell you what I would recommend that you buy as a basic core set of decodable readers for the children you have. But if I was in, in Africa or somewhere where I had limited resources, I don't need lots and lots of decodable readers to teach the children to read. And I've been supporting organisations like the World Literacy Foundation doing fantastic work using tablets, solar powered tablets, because we don't want to have to rely on children needing hard copy resources. So, think outside the box, think these decodables are a means to an end. There's lots and lots of resources you can get online, and a lot are actually free.
Now, you would agree, I hope, that a child who you think is a reasonable reader should be able to read this within 14 seconds, should be able to read it really quickly. And they actually decode, because there's only, up until the last line, there are only sapping in there. There's only this first 6 that we're learning in that explicit teaching. Remember, the first 6. So this is checking fluency. But let's think about here with just sapping. There are some children who, if I did an exercise with you, it would be the same with adults. And I do this with teachers all the time. If I did an exercise with you and I said, right, okay, well, instead of s, at, p, itten, I'm going to give you made up symbols. So we're going to just do, reading the rap, but instead of giving you these, I'm going to give you these symbols. Very quickly, the teachers say, oh my goodness, it's so difficult. And I say, well, yes, so why are you thinking that the children are going to be able to do this really, really quickly? And what does it mean? What does it take for you to be able to read this if I change these symbols? What it takes is, you have to know, well, that's a picture of, or that's represents, that's at, and that's t. You also, so you have to know that you're going left to right. You have to be able to blend. So not only go s, at, you have to be able to blend. Now, a lot of children with poor phonemic awareness can't blend.
So it doesn't matter if the children can look at a letter and say a sound, if they can't actually use it within reading and spelling.
And the strip reminds them that's monster s, at, per, itten. That's the picture in the green level of s, at, per, itten. Here's an example word. S, ip, sit, at, and, to, at, tab, per, at, and, pan, exactly. So this is on their table. So if I was to give you this, if I was to give you this rap, but making up the symbols, you would go, I can't remember which it is. So you might, if you might be able to blend them together. So if I told you that's s, at, you'll be able to blend it again to a sat. But supposing you can't remember what that one is.
If you had to learn a new code and you wanted to be able to look at the code so you could remember the sound, or you know the sound and you want to remember how to write it, you would ask for the strip straight away. And let's give children what we would want.
Okay, because the best way to teach really is for you to actually get into the mindset of a 5-year-old. What are we telling them to do? Okay, so just quickly, remember that's s, that's a, that's t, that's p, that's it, and that's n.
The kids need the visual representation. Even if they have the skills and the concepts, they need the visual.
I've only got 6 sound picks, but now could you read this to me, please? Go. So you're going to expect the children to do it with fluency and comprehension. Well, no, we need to be able to decode it with fluency and comprehension. And to be able to do that, the very basics is I need to know what that's a picture of. So I need to know what that squiggle is. Well, that squiggle was... That squiggle was, and so what you would do is reference all the time. Well, what was that? What was that? So if you're asking the children, right, sound it out, I might be able to blend sounds together, but if I don't know what that represents quickly, I can't follow the sounds, so I can't blend them. So have a go. So here you go. So here's the guide. So that first word, what's that first word? The first word is sat. Sat, sat. What's the next word? At, pat. What's the next one? And you're thinking, hold on a second here, what is that one? I don't know that middle one. I don't know what that is. What's that? You've not shown me that. That's not in my code. You see, you guys are so used to looking at that and thinking, well, that's his name is an A, but in the green code level, that's an A. But you're so used to looking at text that you don't even realise that that A doesn't look like the one that you told them was an A. It looks completely different there and probably looks completely different in another book. So you've got to really pick this apart. Same as with the spelling. I'll often have teachers say to me, oh, they're doing really well, they know the sounds, but when they come to spell the word, they're not sure, and I don't understand why. Okay, well, there's your code. Okay, so now can you please write down the word pin? You're thinking, well, I can't because I can't remember off the top of my head what a, even though I know I want to writ, I don't know what it looks like. I can't remember what it looked like. Oh, there it is. So please have the code there for them on their table. So when they've got to write the word pin, they can think, what does the p look like? And that's why we have the monster routine or the code mapping. So we go p, it, and pin. P, it, and pin. So you can see what part they're struggling at. P, it, and pin. They put the monster p, monster I. Move it up. Okay, so now they've got to do the picture of per, and that's when if they don't have that there, they might do something completely different, but they know what they're doing. It's just that they don't know what the put looks like. They can't remember it. So have it there. Oh, that's what it looks like. What does the it look like? At put, and that's why we always have them in that order as well. Put it. What does the n look like? Just the same as if I made you do it. You think, what does the n look like? And also remember, well, does it start there? Does it start there? So letter formation as well, term 1 of prep is really important, so they're also forming correctly. For each level, we want them to be able to recognise these, but we want them to be able to decode with fluency and comprehension. So it means they can get any decodable reader at their code level, that's green, and they can actually follow the sounds, say the word st, at, and stan, put. The detective is there because he's saying, hold on, you don't know that one. What do you think it could be?
And that's what's great with the speech sound monsters. They can say, it's this monster. And the children know that's monster oh. Okay, so that U in the word is a representation for oh. Put, ut, put. And there are the others.
The other, put it and pin, it and in, the other, to it and tin. And so you've got your decodable in your foundation. So this is the, you know, just showing SSP teachers that they're covering every strand of the Australian curriculum using their phase 2 routine. Prep, reading, decodable and predictable text, and in your foundation year as well. So of course you've got to have your decodable text, which is just a means to an end. So have a look here if you're following the SSP teaching order. You know, it's all there for you. It shows exactly which readers that you can use. So you've got your decodable text, and of course the ones that I write, which are online. They're decodable, yes, as you know. It shows at the beginning what's the code in it. But they're also predictable. Stan, put the pin in the tin. Oh, what's happening? What's going to happen? Oh, no. And what's going to happen? So it's predictable. So it's all the things that we're used to having. It's just that the text has been crafted to be in line with your phonics teaching and also with your SSP duck level words, which is your high frequency words.
Now, just about the duck level words, the high frequency words that are code mapped and monster mapped now. First of all, what I've done is I put the first couple of duck level words are in line with the high frequency words they will come across in the low level PM readers. Using the monsters mean they straight away can work out these high frequency words that are often difficult to decode and impossible to decode if you're just going to use your phonics teaching. So they can go through their sight words, which are actually not by sight because we're teaching the children the code. We don't want to rob them of the opportunity to be able to encode these words, decode these words, as well as recognize them really quickly. But it develops independence because the children don't need you there. They don't need anyone there telling them what that word is. They can figure it out using the speech sound monsters. And they more or less teach themselves about the schwa.
So basically, on your decodable readers, what I want you to think is, what I've also done is, because SSP teachers still have to do mandatory PM benchmarking, they don't start PM readers at all on actually reading. We can look at them, but the children aren't going to independently read PM readers until they get to here. And when they get to here, what we find is that they can go more or less straight on to PM 10. So all of the skills and concepts that we teach up till there means that they can start there, and that's round about term 3 of prep. So we're expecting most children to be around about a PM 10 by the end of term 3 in prep.
So you probably can't see this very well, but this SSP teacher basically showed that when the children were working at the SSP green code level, no, they're not ready for PM readers. Purple, no, they're not ready. But by the time they get to the end of yellow, and that's when, as I say, you can start using the PM readers, you can start benchmarking, she found that, yes, it's around about a PM 10. And then she found as well that the children who were at the end of the blue code level were PM benchmarking around about a 20. But you can see all the teachers, we collect data, we're tracking how far travelled for every student. But this shows that you can use your PMs, you can benchmark, but we need that underlying layer first, and it actually means the benchmark higher and quicker. But we don't start until the children are at the end of SSP Yellow or Term 4 of Prep, whichever comes first. The Education Department wants the PM benchmark in Prep, so that's fine, end of Yellow or Term 4 of Prep. But it means that our average by Term 4 is much higher, even though we didn't use the PM readers often till perhaps Term 3. This template for recording PM levels and SSP Phonics code levels is in your members area. If you're in the members area, ask to talk to Trinity about this one. That's what we do, we talk about data.
And the great thing with SSP is that the children aren't all learning this as a class. They work through at their code level, at their level.
I got this from Gold Coast.
Did you get it on the Gold Coast? When you went on the Gold Coast, did your mummy go to visit? Did she go to the office and get it for you? Well, no wonder you're on the blue code level. So they're both the same. It's just that we're looking at that one and that one.
I found 10 sub-examiners and look. And look, this one has the same sound in here and here.
Wow, show me. Show me again. So this one, this one, and show me.
They'll do the coding poster at their level every day. They're also exploring the code all the time at any level, so they're crossing between levels. And they're also doing their video lesson again at their code level. We're attacking this in all sorts of different ways, and the kids love it.
Miss Emma.
Wow. Yes, you saw it again at the scene.
Miss Emma.
You're discovering so much.
I'm going to do my SSP videos.
Are you going to go do your SSP video? Show me. Go.
They do it during the routine, but they can go and choose to do this whenever they like. He's choosing to do it during free playtime.
Wow. Let me see. You're doing yours as well. Such fun.
Where's my pen? I dropped it.
Just pause it a second.
I dropped my pen. I'm going to do SSP over there.
You're going to do SSP over there.
I forgot to. I dropped my pen. It's turning. Where's wrong with this? How are you going to dash it down? Really?
I'm watching you. Yellow level.
And look at this.
And you're right now.
Duck.
Oh, bitch, you got the duck.
And if you spell
This is called spaced repetition. It's a really great way to learn.
And be careful.
Just tell me again what you have to do.
And Miss Emma, be careful with Peter. And I've got SSP on my iPad.
You've got SSP on your iPad. That's brilliant. So what do you have to do? Tell me what you have to do.
You have to circle these up and write the words like I did.
Oh, in speech and lines, but no letters.
And I do.
You did the sounds as you did the numbers as well.
Yeah,
I've
and
not
duck
seen
hands.
any preps really doing that
And
yet.
duck hands.
And duck hands too. Do me another one so I can see it wasn't just a fluke.
Which one?
Do me
The cake or which picture?
anyone you want. You choose.
And last time with Miss Emma did all of them.
So in this class they have a timer, so the teacher doesn't need to tell them when to start the next activity. They all stop and start at the same time, but they're all working at their code level.
Which one are you doing?
I need to do this sound.
Oh, what's the word you're doing?
This is dig. And we have a lot of, and on here, on the other side it has a sweet and sandwich.
Oh, it does have a sweet and sandwich on the blue level. Wow. So go.
He's talking about a split vowel digraph which they love to discover along with the schwa.
What do you do? You
We
said
have to circle all of them. Then when the time, we have to do the lines and numbers. Then when we're finished, we have to write them. Then we have to write these.
wow.
We have to write-
So if I asked you to do cheese, do cheese for me.
Cheese.
Cheese. That's amazing. And if you duck handed it, duck handed. Brilliant.
And Miss Emma,
Wait, God, sit up and
we have to be well here.
Oh, now it's this, is it? Because the timer's gone.
At my uncle's house,
Say it, draw it. I heard the timer.
now we rub our whiteboards. Going here. Now we're up to here.
Wow, now
I'm up to blue.
you're up to blue. Show me. So stay and draw it. What do you do?
And I'm up to blue.
So she's starting on blue because that's her code level. The child next to her might be starting on green. It's personalised learning. So they're doing this every day. It's about 2 minutes per activity. They've got the first activity is pure phonemic awareness, no phonics. The next one is the recognition of the graphemes, so say it, draw it. The next one is those graphemes in words, so they follow the sound, say the word, and they'll alternate. Some days they've got to write it as well. So that's using those in real words. Then they've got their duck level words, and then they're putting them together in sentences. So it finishes off with reading in a speaking voice. So they have to say it to themselves and then say it in a speaking voice. And they've also got the chants, so they're actually going through chants. So there's an awful lot in that, 2 minutes each every single day using spaced repetition. So every day they go back, revise, reinforce and move on. And they're learning more through the coding video. A lot of it is set up for self-teaching. The video is set up so they've got me teaching them in their ear. It reinforces the phonics that they've been using and adds more. Then they practice it on their poster. And of course they're using those decodable readers, so they're then actually putting it into a real book. So we're bringing it all together really quickly, but you can see how scaffolded it is, and hopefully you can see that the kids absolutely love it. They're busy, busy, busy all the time. If you look around the classroom, children are not messing about, they're not uninterested, they're not bored, it's not too difficult for them. Every child is working at their code level, every child knows what's expected of them, and every child is just pushing themselves every day. They're actually doing exactly what John Hattie will tell you about if you go to Visible Learning training. It's exactly what we know about effective learning. Okay, so here you can see the last activities where they bring it all together, and they've just got lots and lots of sentences at their code level that they say in a speaking voice. Then they're going to get books out and they're going to work either on their own or in pairs using speedy paired decoding. And the focus is on decoding fluency, not the comprehension then, even though of course we're going to be going round and asking comprehension questions, but that's not our focus. We just do that naturally because we're teachers, and it's very difficult to just, compartmentalize absolutely everything to say, right, we're just doing decoding here, we're not thinking about comprehension. That's not real teaching, but the focus is on the decoding fluency. We actually have the specific activity for your comprehension when we do snap and crack and cracking comprehension. Again, that's all part of your phase 2 routine where you cover every strand: language, literacy and literature, your whole English curriculum, and not just reading. So this is speedy paired decoding. One is actually practicing decoding and the other encoding.
Okay.
So you can see Fitzroy and Dandelion readers in this picture.
You can go foot or eat, flip, and foot or up, flop, cut or in cling, two, long, butter and ranch. Flip and flop, cling to a long branch. So you can do that on your own. Flip at Remember, in this session, it's a focus on speedy paired decoding. So the focus is on the decoding. It's the linking of the speech sounds to their representations on paper. Although this child can read this book in a speaking voice with expression and fluency, by doing the speedy pair decoding on his own, it's helping with his encoding. It's making sure that every time he looks at each word, he understands how each speech sound is represented. He can also then cross-reference, so he uses this knowledge in other encoding and decoding activities. It's really important, and it's not related to the traditional sound it out at all.
It's unique to SSP because it's something I've developed as a real teacher over the years. A lot of what I share is not just what to teach, but how to teach it effectively, using strategies that are unique to me, and I'm sharing them. They'll help you speed up the process for the highest number of learners.
Sing, song.
That's amazing. Okay, and stop. This time, could you please, just so that I can go around and hear everybody reading in speaking voices. So this time, get your book out. So make sure everyone's got a book that they can read. And then I'm going to come round and I want you to hear you reading it. So you only need to follow the sounds when you're not sure. And I want you to read it as if you're telling me a story at night time.
So you can tell them. Sometimes they're doing speedy pair decoding on their own or in a pair or a group, and then other times they're reading it in a speaking voice with expression.
You might have to do it a little bit loud because everybody's reading.
So before redirecting her, I just wanted to actually hear, because what she's doing is very nicely following the speech sounds, following the phonemes. So she's actually looking at every single word and giving the phoneme to grapheme link. This is fantastic for her spelling, for her encoding skills.
I've said damn. So can you do it without doing the sound? So just read it. So just he ran and skipped up the steps. So really just read for me now.
He ran and skipped up the steps into the loft. He jumped into the old chest and hid. Come and get me, he yelled.
Beautiful.
Raj and Liz hunted for Dan. The kids sprinted to the shed.
That is beautiful reading.
In the pot.
What do you read? Read it for me.
Aunt March. Aunt March.
Aunt March.
Aunt March. You need Aunt March lived in a castle. She planted elm trees in her garden. She put sharks in the moat.
Sharks in the moat?
At 10:30, Aunt March climbed up the mast to look out and call, yoo-hoo!
Yoo-hoo! So which is the mast? The mast. Which is the mast? Yes, it is. Well done.
So they're all working at their own code level, and they understand that that's what it means. It's their code level. But at every code level, we are checking that they are decoding with fluency and comprehension. but it means that it's personalised learning. Every single child is learning what they need when they need it at the time they need it. And because they're developing this decoding fluency, we can really get into that comprehension. Now, I haven't shown it in this clip, but we're using real wonderful stories and poems all the time, real books. They're not just using these decodable readers, that's just part of their phase 2 routine. You'll also, if you're in Australia, know about PM readers. Well, hopefully by now, like for example this book here, Big Animals in the Sea, this is supposed to be PM1. The code in this is far too difficult for a child who's starting out on their phonics journey, so these are not suitable as beginning readers. However, when the children get to the end of yellow, they can read this, and they wouldn't even look at the picture because they'd go straight to the text. They'd look at the picture afterwards as a, it's the icing on the cake, but they'd actually read that text, they'd figure it all out, and they don't need any help, and that's what we want them to do. But I do also show SSP teachers how to use these books. All the teachers have got them, so we don't just put them in a corner and leave them. I show teachers how to use these books. But we don't want children guessing from pictures. We want them to understand what reading is. Big Animals in the Sea, and there's a picture of a dolphin on the front.
Right, so we've got, what would you do? If you're told to read this book and you wanted to know the title,
Dolphin.
What would you do?
No dolphin.
We also don't want them using predictable text to not really look at the writing and just guess.
The little boat is on the table. Right, close your eyes. What's the writing there?
The little track is on the table.
Let's have a look. Let's have a look. Woohoo! Hold on, next one. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Close your eyes. Now read the page.
The little ball is on the table.
The little ball is on the table. Close your eyes. Close your eyes.
They often couldn't look at the individual words and tell you what they were out of that context.
Aeroplane.
Oh, but no, hold on. It's a purr. So what do you think is the little purr is on the table? What do you think it is? The little the little paw. It was an aeroplane, but they're calling it a purr. Plane. Let's have a look.
Another strategy, if you don't know the word, is look at the first sound and guess. But it prolongs the decoding phase.
The little bus is on the table.
Oh, it is! You're magic! You're reading, but you're not really. Oh, what do you think the next one is? Hey! What do you think the next one is?
The little teddy is on the table.
Yes! Oh, but supposing I told you it was a little Yes, let's have a look! And you did it without even having a look at the writing.
Now, some lucky children are going to learn to read that way. But they are the lucky ones. We don't have enough children we can't leave it to chance. We can't just hope for the best. And then when they fail, give them an intervention. Children shouldn't need to recover from anything. We need to get it right in the first place, which means, you give the children the best opportunity by giving them the teaching we know works for the highest number of children. And that's your big 6, your oral language, phonemic awareness, phonics taught systematically, your fluency, your vocab, your comprehension. So SSP offers all that, but we're also always focused on reading for pleasure. It's what they deserve. But we do have to benchmark them. It's what every education department asks for, benchmarking. But let's do it when they're ready. Let's give them the skills to benchmark higher, earlier. That class, which started out with a lot of children in English as second language, a lot of children spoke very little English at the beginning. The average PM benchmark at the end of term 4, that's unseen. We make sure that the PM benchmarking is with unseen text, and we're really rigorous with our testing. But that class had an average over 17, and it's 5 in South Australia, so she's doing brilliantly. You can go and visit teachers like that. That was my message in the video about monster mapping in the early years.
that your reception, your year one teachers are covering every single strand of the Australian curriculum just by following the 2-hour literacy block that I've planned. And what's happening now is the more teachers that are actually using SSP, they're collaborating, sharing, supporting, opening their doors so that teachers don't just have to read about it. You can say, where's an SSP teacher? Let me go and see. And then they learn from going into that classroom with that teacher.
So go and talk to SSP teachers. Teachers are the best people to talk to if you want to really evaluate a program, an approach. If you want a really good opinion on how effective something is, actually talk to the teachers using it. Not teachers who don't use it and who think they understand it. Talk to teachers who are actually using it. Talk to this teacher. Find out, how did she manage to get that PM benchmark? What happened? What was different? She's the same person in the same school with the same cohort. What's different now? SSP. What she'll talk to you about is differentiation. The fact that every child is so different and yet is able to thrive.
So the children who need more time here stay there. The children who can whiz through. You might have some children who come into school already here. So we don't want them to have to spend weeks and weeks going through all this phonics teaching. So the SSP Phase 2 routine, which you can watch all the activities on ssptraining.org for $35, but it means that every child's working through at their code level.
But as I discussed earlier, think about the phonics code levels and how they relate to your PMs. That's around about a 10 when they get to the end of the yellow code level. And when they get to the end of the blue code level, they're around about a 20.
Don't start them until there, because otherwise what happens is they start to guess, memorize. So let's have them, give them this lovely layer first, which is in line with everything you need to do for, with your Australian curriculum, what have you, and what we know about the Big Six and how to teach reading. Let's do this first, but then you can start on new PMs. I do like PM benchmarking in that we can have a consistent level. We can sort of see how children are doing across the country, which really sort of shows us, well, what do we need to look at? What do teachers need more help with, or children need more help with, whatever. But I really want to see most children around about end of term 3 here. But it doesn't matter if they're not. Parents shouldn't be worried if their child's still here on term 3 of prep, because the children have 2 years to go through it all. So that's what some children might need 2 whole years to get to the stage of being a PM, reading chapter books, really. Whereas some children are ready for it way before that, by the end of prep.
And just so you know, we don't take them past PM 25 in prep, because the books get a little bit, they're written as if the children aren't 5 years old.
So every child gets there. The children are going through the phonics teaching, but this is a means to an end. I want the children reading for pleasure before they go into year 2. So that's a basic overview of Decodable Readers, SSP style.
In case you're interested, here are the 4 SSP linguistic phonics code levels.